Hello and welcome to another episode of Andy's Chomping at the Bit. Today's episode is going to be on fear. By the way, Andy's Chomping at the Bit is brought to you by Big Andy Media, the official sponsor of every Friday segment of Andy's Chomping at the Bit. So without further ado, let's go into fear. And I'm going to try focusing primarily on not too much on the past because I want to make it clear that fear doesn't go away forever. In my experience, it changes. What I was afraid of at one point, I'm no longer afraid of now. What once was a crippling fear is now a manageable fear. So things change, and I think that's I think that sometimes gets lost in the discussion, as if fear's somehow a irrational thing, and it can be. I won't argue that, and maybe by professional standards, it is irrational. But this is, like I said, my take on it. When I was afraid of getting out and getting help for my addiction, I'll go with the most recent one because the first one was a little different. It wasn't immediate. It was actually, I'd already been clean for over a week by the time, or about a week by the time I made the decision that I actually wanted help. But the fear of the matter, what was holding me back, the fear of judgment, the fear of failing again, those fears had been there for a while, but they were more crippling, if that makes sense. I was afraid to the point that my mind would irrationally justify avoiding the uncomfortable, avoiding getting help, because it was, the idea was too uncomfortable, too scary for me to handle at that moment. So that's how I distinguish it. Is it still scary sometimes? Yeah, it's still scary. Recovery is not a walk in the park by any means, and every day brings another challenge. You don't see them coming all the time. Sometimes you get blindsided by things more than others, and it's hurt. It hurts sometimes. You roll with the punches, and you're like, gosh, when are they going to stop punching? Or things are going good, and then out of nowhere, you get a low blow, and you just, it's challenging. And so part of the fear is not knowing what that next challenge is going to be, not knowing where it's coming from. But again, going with the rational side of the fear, and the whether it's crippling or not. I know that the road ahead's unknown. I know that I'm going to face a lot of struggles, a lot of adversity, from now to whenever the end may be for me, and so there's going to be rough points, and that is scary. But I also know that I've faced scary stuff in the past. I have overcome so much in the past, and fear, struggle, adversity. It's all part of life. Doesn't make it easy. Doesn't make you, like I said, it doesn't make the fear go away. But it makes it so you can keep living. It makes it so you can keep pushing. One of the big things for fear with me is I struggled with coping with fear for a long time. And to give a few classic examples, the first time I ever drank alone, and I'm fortunate that I never really struggled as far as addiction wise with alcohol, like a lot of people I know have. But I do know that was the first substance I had used to cope with loss. And it was my grandma, and I was going into my junior year of high school. I think had it been around, no, it was the end of June, early July. And she had went into a coma, and I missed getting the opportunity to see her because she didn't regain consciousness by the time I saw her. But I remember I was at home alone while the rest of my family was able to be at the hospital. And that was the first time I ever drank alone, not to celebrate with friends or any other rebellious activity as a high schooler, but to try drowning out the feeling, try coping in that sense. But that process, instead of learning how to properly cope with that with loss, I didn't handle it. I didn't deal with it. So that fear grew, and it became more and more crippling to the point where in 2016 I found out that my mom had esophageal cancer, and caught it early, but there still had to be surgery done, and the odds weren't the greatest for successfully having the surgery and surviving and having the cancer fully removed. So the fear, like I said, was still there, had grown, and it did become crippling at that point. I believe it was January 16th. My mom underwent surgery, and she survived it. But on January 17th, I was still struggling. I wasn't rational by any means, and that was the first time I was introduced to the drug that ultimately really dragged me into some big loops, and that was crack cocaine. And because I wasn't handling my fear of loss, and that's been a fear since the passing of my grandma, and I've struggled with that one for a long time. And so when I did go into treatment this past time, it was because of loss. And so I made that a focus when I was getting help to learn to cope with loss, because it's not easy. And like I said, fear does not go away. You learn to manage it. You learn to think rationally to deal with it. But certain things will still bother you. If you have PTSD, like I personally have it from a sexual assault incident, certain things will still shake you. Certain things will still bother you. How you cope with them, how you move on is what really is the challenge. But the fear doesn't go away. It's not a magic thing. I wish it was. I will say that personally, at least, faith definitely helps. It doesn't make it go away, but it gives me the strength and guidance to persevere through the struggle. And that's a blessing in itself. But that's one of those things I had to work on, and part of it's a mindset. Won't lie, that factors into how you handle a lot of things. Trying to have a rational thought, for me at least, having a rational thought process in place for handling the moments. And I'm blessed that I've developed a very good sense of self-awareness, what's going on in my head, as far as pulling myself out of the moment. And that allows me to start going through, okay, you're scared of this, but is this rational? Is this actual fear, or is it the acronym of fear, which is, they're separate from the one I'm thinking of, is false evidence appearing real. Weighing that out makes a difference for me too, personally. But I think that the reason that I was scared for a long time, fear, aside from the unknown, is because for a long time I didn't understand the value of time. I didn't know what I could do if I was afraid of loss. I didn't know what I could do to be less afraid of loss. And for me, at least, I'd say that was the benefit of owning up to my past and doing jail time. No one likes to go in there. I didn't like it at all, especially when I was spending 6 months in a building without a single window. So, don't know if it's night or day. You just look at the clock and, oh, so 6 o'clock, okay. But I learned the value of time. A lot of people will think differently than me on this. But I believe firmly that time is the most valuable resource in existence. I can make money back. I cannot make time back. Give me $1 million to sit in jail for 6 months. Keep the $1 million. I'll stay free. I can make a lot of memories in 6 months. I can grow a lot in 6 months. $1 million, not worth it. So, but it taught me the value of time. And so when I got out and I was working pretty heavily on myself, on my recovery, on my, improving myself. And I continue to do that part, but I'm able to expand a little bit more, a lot more now, because I have a system of a nice routine and a great support system, both immediate and surrounding, to help me through things, help me grow. But I'm learning to embrace the things that I took for granted. My dog, I adopted her in 2013. So she's 11 and a half years old now. And I rescued her, but she missed out with me for quite a while. And for several years, the time she had with me, or for at least a few years, the time she had with me wasn't consistent. It wasn't really, other than my physical self, it wasn't me. And that wasn't fair to her. And so I could beat myself up on regret, and for a while I did. But I understand that also wasn't me. I understand that was a part of me that was really bad, or really, really sick, to say the least, struggling. Because addiction is an illness. It is a disease. But I also know that I've grown since then. I've overcome a lot of that stuff, and that I am here for her now. So focusing on the time thing, I make sure that every day, every time I have the opportunity, I make sure that Sophie, gets extra love and attention from me. Every night when I go to bed, I say the same thing to her. I pet her and I thank her for always being there for me, and for not giving up. So, but that's what I learned from time. I missed out on some of her years, and she's up there in age, but I'm damn lucky I got right now. And I get to spend time with her now. And knowing that I'm using my time in a way that matters now. That's how I conquer fear. I can't control everything. A lot of things I can't control at all. And that's okay. And it's okay for me to be scared. Oftentimes, if I feel lost, I pray on it. Pray for guidance. And it comes in ways I never expect. But it does come. And it helps me through the moments. And that's important for me. Making it through the moments. I don't have to make it to next year. I just have to make it to the end of the day, and then I can start again tomorrow. And as long as I enjoy and take care of the things that matter most to me, and from the struggle, that's where I realized that, my pets, which are my family, the rest of my family, my friends, people that are, that have been there in the past for me, and those spending time appreciating those things, the things that matter, is beyond a doubt what matters for me the most. It pushes me through. It gets me to overcome the fear of loss. It helps me overcome the fear of regret, because I know that in the moment I am doing what I can to the best of my ability, and I'm enjoying the moments I have to the best of my ability. So that's what 36 years of reflection gets you. Whole lot of memories, good and bad. I have a gift of being able to remember stuff in great detail. And so I have all the good memories and bad memories. And I can tell you right now, the good ones outweigh the bad by far. So a good 36 years and another good Andy's Chomping at the Bit. So once again, Andy's Chomping at the Bit is brought to you by Big Andy Media, the official sponsor of every Andy's Chomping at the Bit Friday segment. With that, have a great weekend. I look forward to speaking to you guys again on Monday and Wednesdays, Daily Biscuits, and another Andy's Chomping at the Bit next Friday. Take care.